So let's take a look here. Wow, this is big. Look at this. This is actually quite the specimen. This looks like it belongs in a college biology lab room or something. I like to soak it in buttermilk overnight. However, I do not have buttermilk. But I do have some whole milk and I have some lemon juice. So I'm going to use that to soak it. But first, I'm going to use this kind of a knife. It's a boning knife, fillet knife. Try and trim. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut off a piece and determine whether this really needs to be cut or not. Let's see, because it looks kind of thin. Let's see. Yeah, this could probably stand to be taken off. Try to run my knife along it without taking off too much of the meat. It's going to turn into a rubber band when you cook it. Oh man, this whole thing is covered in this membrane. This is going to need a lot of love. So I basically turned my kitchen counter into the floor of a slaughterhouse. This is so gross looking. I noticed that at one point I could just pick it up and pull as much as I can without taking off too much of the meat. So I'm pretty happy. I made a couple of little gouges into it, and I don't think I lost too much of it. Look at this. Oh, God. I know, this is turning into a horror movie. And I was able to take off some stuff. Now we have these holes here. I think they're veins. This isn't gonna be easy. And I don't know how I'm gonna be able to get in there. I'm trying to get to that here. I'm feeling where I separated the membrane from the meat, and I wonder if I take getting it all bloody and gross. I take a pull. What did I get? I don't know. I think that's the best I'm going to be able to do. Okay, it's like, and I have a big waft of liver smell up my nose. So I'm just going to do my best, and I may very well give up. So here's my dilemma. I am the only one in this house who would even consider eating this. I'm going to make myself liver and onions, and I'll turn the rest into pate. Let's see right here. Oh. Let's see. Oh, that's pretty gross. That's gross. I've got just whole milk here. I'll fill it halfway up. I'm putting some. I don't really care that there's seeds getting in there. This is going to sort of take the place of buttermilk. Okay. And now, everybody in the pool. Look at the cutting board. Ew. I am going to put this in the fridge. And I'll deal with it tomorrow. Okay, so it is now tomorrow evening, and earlier today I flipped them over in here, and now we get to see what it looks like. Brace yourself. Ta-da! Isn't that enough to make your stomach turn? Let's take it out here and see what it looks like. Ooh, look at it. It's all curdled and disgusting. So now I'm going to give these a rinse. Oh, that's an interesting smell. This is the piece that I was going to use for the pate. So I'm going to rinse this one off. Yeah, see? Remember how dark it was yesterday? A lot lighter. So now I have a paper towel here. I'm going to dry this off as much as I can. Okay. We're going to cut this into manageable pieces. One thing you don't want to do is cook them all the way through. You want them a little bit pink in the middle. That way it's not so tough. So I'm going to put this on a very high heat. I'm going to sear them and cook them until they're medium. So this will happen quickly. This is just the first step. I'm going to just brown them and put them on a plate and let them sit. I'm going to use bacon fat. I'm going to salt one side of the beef liver. My bacon fat. It looks like about a tablespoon. I have 14 ounces of liver here as I weighed it. And that's perfect for the recipe I'm going to be using to make this liver pate. That oil in there looks like it's shimmering, which means it's very, very hot. In they go. Wow. Cook them for a minute on each side. Spend 60 seconds. I'm going to flip them. Oh, wait, did I do this side? I don't remember. I guess we'll see in the videotape later. Oh yeah. Spend 1 minute on each side. For some of these, they're kind of a little bit smaller than the other pieces, so I'm going to take those out and leave the other ones in for another 30 seconds, I'd say, just to give them a little bit of a chance, but these are looking pretty good. I'm feeling around for firmness. This one's still a little, it's getting there. This one's still, it's giving me a little bit of a give. That's not bad. Look at the blood coming out. Alright, take this guy out. I'm over here licking my fingers. That's not horrible, I guess. I mean, everything is better with bacon, right? I'm putting a little bit more bacon fat, and I'm going to cook some onions and some garlic in here. I had shut it off because it was way too hot. Just judging by the way that bacon fat is melting, I put it back on and I put it at like medium heat. This is a cup of onions. Just following a recipe. Salt on it. This recipe I'm following calls for fresh rosemary and fresh thyme. I don't have any of that stuff, but I have the dry stuff. So I'm going to bloom some of these dry spices. This is rosemary. And the recipe says to caramelize these. So I'm just cooking them at a relatively gentle heat. Definitely not as high as I did for the liver. And boy, when it comes to rosemary, a little bit really does go a long way. It smells fabulous. These are going to caramelize nice in the bacon fat. I'm going to try and bring out the sweetness of the onions with a tiny, tiny little bit of sugar. It's just a pinch of sugar to bring out the sweetness of the onions. I think I'm cooking this at a gentle enough heat where I think it's safe to put in the garlic. This is 2 cloves of garlic. A little salt on it. A little more of this rosemary and thyme. I'd say this is looking pretty good. It sat on here pretty for a good while. I'd say 10 minutes at a low, like a relatively low heat. Just cook gently, get brown. bacon fat, butter, those kinds of things they make it really nice for browning food. Boop. I'm gonna set this on a plate and let it cool. So I think it's time to start putting this together. Caramelized onions and garlic. I'm going to use a little bit of apple cider vinegar. I'm going to put in a little bit more bacon fat, a little bit more salt, and what I haven't put in yet is black pepper. So here we go. I think I'm going to discard of the juices because maybe I'm making a mistake, but psychologically, I just can't bring myself to put them in there. So first I'm going to start off putting the liver in there. And add a little more salt. Introducing the pepper. I'm just eyeballing it. I mean, I'm going to taste it too. So I'll let that go first. That's looking pretty good. The onions in there. I'll put a little more bacon fat in there. A good teaspoon. It's a heaping teaspoon. I'm digging the flavor of this rosemary. I'll put, it's like less than a half a teaspoon. Did I do this yet? Some more time. I'm going to start off with about a tablespoon. Brighten it up a little bit. Okay, let's look. Give it one more little whirl. Now for the taste. That tablespoon of vinegar was just enough. I'm going to put tiny little bit of salt and a lot more black pepper. I feel like a little kitty cat. I just want to eat all the liver. Yum, 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 yum. That's not disgusting. I'm going to put this in some sort of a vessel. I've got this ramekin here. I'm going to line this little ramekin with some plastic wrap. Put it in the fridge. Ow! Just gonna cover it up now, and that goes in the fridge overnight. So the next day, the liver had a chance to chill in the fridge and firm up. Take it out, and it had a nice shape, and I garnished it with some parsley and plated it up with some little pieces of melon, some roasted garlic. I had like a nice goat cheese that paired nicely with the liver, and some cherry tomatoes, gherkins, grapes, and this was something nice to spread on either a cracker or like some toasted Italian bread, like little crostinis. And I thought it tasted pretty good. I thought that the liver flavor was still a little bit strong. Beef liver tends to be strong. And what I would have done a little bit differently is probably would have cut the liver into manageable pieces first before putting it into the milk lemon juice marinade, and maybe even have let it stay even longer than overnight, maybe even 2 days, because otherwise all of the seasoning was there. The rosemary and thyme really stood out. It blended very nicely to the liver. I would say give it a try sometime. You know, it did take a while. It's like a nice little thing to have at your next party. And I hope you enjoyed the video.